Good morning. My name is Dr. Olivia Chang. I am a second-year fellow at the Cleveland Clinic, the section of urogynecology. Thank you for the opportunity to present my work. We have no disclosures to report. Stress urinary incontinence affects up to 24% of women in the United States. Management options include non-surgical, procedural, and surgical options. With growing concerns over vaginal pelvic mesh procedures and the Food and Drug Administration's recent order to stop the distribution of transvaginal mesh for prolapse, many wonder how women would be impacted if midurethral slings were not available. As a result, the objective of our study is to conduct a cost-effective analysis for the surgical and non-surgical management of stress urinary incontinence with and without the availability of midurethral slings. We created a decision analysis model using Triage Pro. We modeled 7 treatment pathways for the management of SUI with an index treatment with the treatment options listed. We also included expected management with no additional treatment as a pathway. Expert surgeons from multiple geographically diverse institutions developed treatment pathways with and without the availability of midurethral sling and included cure, recurrence with potential reoperation, and complications. We reviewed high-quality primary literature, systematic reviews, and meta-analyses. 3 co-investigators review the literature to generate probabilities of an event occurring. In regards to the type of midurethral sling used, we used market data for nationwide utilization of each of these slings. We weighted the midurethral sling arm appropriately with complications and surgical success specific to each type of sling. For our model, we assumed a time horizon of 2 years after index surgery, as we assumed that the vast majority of any surgical complication would happen within 2 years of the index surgery. Since the studies reviewed often reported heterogeneous outcomes, we applied conversion factors to report comparable subjective outcomes across all studies. For surgical retreatment, we modeled the probability of surgical retreatment for each treatment pathway by index surgery. For de novo overactive bladder, we used primary literature to generate probabilities for each treatment pathway. We measured costs in 2019 US dollars to include index surgery, surgical retreatment, and complications including urinary retention, de novo urgency, and mesh exposure. Effectiveness was measured as utility in quality-adjusted life years. In a given year, quality ranges from 0 to 1. With a 2-year time frame, our range of effectiveness was 0 to 2. The incremental cost-effectiveness ratio, or ICER, was calculated to evaluate for cost-effectiveness across all treatment strategies. An ICER value of less than $50,000 per quality was considered cost-effective. If a strategy is more expensive and less effective, it is a dominated strategy and therefore not the preferred strategy by any metric. In this table, we present the costs for each of the treatment strategies with the availability of midurethral slings. The treatment strategy with the highest cost is one that starts with periurethral bulking. This was due to their lower effectiveness compared to other surgical options and need for additional procedures for ongoing SUI. The treatment strategy with the least cost is one that starts with an incontinence pessary. Notably, the option for no additional treatment costs more than both non-surgical options due to the ongoing costs of managing SUI in the do-nothing arm. The surgical treatment strategy with the least cost is one that starts with a midurethral sling. In this table, we present the effectiveness measured in quality-adjusted life years for each of the treatment strategies with the availability of midurethral sling. The most effective treatment strategy, as measured by the highest quality, is one that starts with midurethral sling as a treatment strategy. The least effective treatment strategy is one where nothing is done, followed by laparoscopic birch-copal suspension. In this table, we present the cost effectiveness of each treatment strategy measured with ICER to determine the dominant and dominated treatment strategies. Our baseline treatment option is an incontinence pessary since it has the least cost of the dominant strategies. Compared to the pessary, pelvic floor PT had an incremental cost effectiveness ratio of almost 23,000 per quality adjusted life year. Mid-urethral slings were considered cost-effective when compared to pelvic PT, with an ICER of approximately 47,000 per quality adjusted life year. Mid-urethral slings were both more effective and less expensive than any other surgical options. Doing nothing, as well as surgical options other than mid-urethral sling, were dominated. The next question is, what would happen to our model if mid-urethral slings were removed from the market? In this scenario, when we account for success, complications, and reoperations in the 2 years following initial treatment, there were no cost-effective surgical options. All surgical options have higher cost than pelvic PT and have lower quality adjusted life years, so they are dominated. However, based on this analysis, if we required a scenario where at least one surgical option was available, regardless of it being cost effective or not, we would recommend open birch-copal suspension since it is the least costly of the remaining surgical options. Here's a visual representation of the same cost effectiveness analysis. Any strategy along the purple line represents the cost effectiveness frontier. Anything below this line suggests a dominated strategy. This includes all the other surgical options besides mid-urethral slings. We perform one-way sensitivity analyses for every variable in the model. We varied the model inputs across a wide range of possible values. Multiple one-way sensitivity analyses confirmed that our model was robust and relatively insensitive to change in our model's input. The only reasonable threshold where outcomes could change is if the cost of periurethral bulking decreased by 12.6%. This allows us to conclude that even if we did not have perfect point estimates for our variables, our conclusions would still be the same. The major limitation of our study is that our treatment pathways were developed by expert opinion. It is possible that practice patterns may vary from one surgeon to the next. The strength of our studies included that we generate probabilities based on high-quality studies in the literature. Furthermore, we demonstrated that our inputs were robust by performing multiple one-way sensitivity analyses. In summary, in our cost-effectiveness model, we found that mid-urethral slings were the most effective treatment for stress urinary incontinence. It is the only cost-effective surgical options. If mid-urethral slings were not available, women would be left without any cost-effective surgical options for the treatment of stress urinary incontinence. I would like to thank all of my mentors, including Dr. Ridgway, Dr. Shepard, and Dr. Kadish for helping me with that study. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to any questions.